Welcome back to Game Pass Picks, the series that highlights some of the best games on Xbox Game Pass right now. Today we're looking at Void Bastards, a sci-fi survival shooter from developer Blue Manchu. The game takes a very heavy inspiration from the System Shock series, as the studio head was the development director on BioShock and System Shock 2. The game currently retails for $29.99 outside of Game Pass, and is available on both Xbox One and PC's Game Pass. And now for a short and to-the-point review of the game so you can decide if this game is for you. Void Bastards is set in the far reaches of space as a prison cruiser breaks down while transporting inmates. With no actual staff to assist with repairs, the cruiser's computer employs the inmates to assist with repairs in exchange for minor reductions to their sentence, and minor is being charitable.
WCG is delighted to offer you a sentence reduction of 16 days. This reduction will largely offset the sentence for counterfeiting a citizen card.
You play as said inmate who ventures into a neighboring space graveyard to scavenge for parts and fix the ship. Aboard these derelict ships, however, are these deformed creatures that probably used to be human, but that doesn't matter anymore because they are trying to kill you. The game gives you weapons like a standard pistol, a staple gun that acts like a shotgun, grenades, mines, etc. to help you fight these creatures back. Combat in Void Bastards does feel rather reminiscent of BioShock, as you aren't aiming down sights, and the general feel of combat is similar as you find yourself strafing around to avoid fire while using various equipment to try and gain the upper hand. Basically, if you've played games like BioShock or System Shock before, then you really shouldn't be having any issues when getting used to Void Bastards. These weapons and equipment can be upgraded on your workbench once you return to your ship with items that you found while scavenging on the derelict ship. You can also build new weapons and build equipment that will protect you from the various hazards that you encounter, like radiation, fire, oil slicks, etc. The system actively encourages the player to invest in the game's core gameplay loop, which helps keep the player engaged. At some point, you will get cornered and die, but that isn't game over. Void Bastards is a roguelike shooter where, as soon as you die, another inmate is taken out and rehydrated? And you start controlling the new inmate. The new inmate retains whatever progress that you made on your workbench with the previous inmate, minus the ammo from the weapon. Adding to the roguelike system is a perk system where each inmate comes with their own buffs or debuffs, like coughing randomly in the latter's case, which alerts nearby enemies. These can be removed on special ships later in the game, but you will be dealing with this for quite a while in the beginning. Another interesting mechanic in the game is the risk versus reward balance of the entire game. From the standpoint of navigation, you have to decide which ships to board, as you will run out of ammo and other resources if you try to search every ship available to you. This also extends to when you do decide to board a ship, and you have to decide if you want to fight through the various enemies around the ship, or if sneaking or running around to avoid combat is a better strategy. The game forces you to make a choice, which adds a nice sense of tension throughout the game. Void Bastards has a very distinct style to it, opting to look something more akin to a comic book come to life. Despite the game being about rummaging around a bunch of broken down ships, the game displays quite a lot of vibrant color, which helps balance out the weird overall dystopian vibe. This is made apparent to the player through the game's cutscenes and also just in the game's mechanics. Throughout the game, you find a currency called merits, which is used primarily to open locked drawers and hack computers for useful information. That's right, this is the kind of world where even broken down ships charge you to get access to their information. While I won't spoil too much, I'll say that this game also has a pretty typical corporate structure attached to the prison ship as well. Progress in the game can only be made with approval from certain departments on the ship, and no, even in an emergency, you cannot circumvent them. Even the robot backpack that's attached to you has to fill out a bunch of paperwork on its way back to the prison ship after you die. Honestly, it was pretty hard to find anything worth complaining about when it comes to Void Bastards, but there are a few little things that may irritate some players new to this type of game. First is the enemy AI. It's not that the enemy AI is bad, but that it's perhaps a little too good. Particularly this applies to any enemies with projectile weapons, which are most of the enemies that you encounter. I have found that these enemies just don't miss for whatever reason. You are either behind cover or getting hit and taking damage, and there doesn't appear to be a middle ground. This gets pretty noticeable when combating these sentry turrets that are placed randomly around the ships on occasion. Basically, if you can see the turret's health bar and there are no obstacles blocking it, it will shoot at you and you will get hit. The game does give you equipment to combat this, so this isn't a deal breaker or anything, but it is something that needs to be brought up as it can be frustrating for new players. Second, you might occasionally find yourself running too low on food or fuel, which are essential for your survival in the game with no immediate way to remedy the problem. This doesn't happen often, but sometimes the mix of risk and reward versus the scarcity of resources can lead to some moments where you feel like the game needs to be a little more generous. Granted, the exact opposite can also happen, so your experience will vary when it comes to that. Overall, in a world where your time is valuable and games can take hours to download, Void Bastards is 100% worth your time. Despite the upgrade system and resource management, the game is still pretty easy to put down and pick back up again, so it primarily leans on its combat mechanics to get you through each run. Like many other roguelikes, this game is great for either short bursts of play or long gaming sessions as well. Void Bastards will easily earn its spot on your playlist. If you like this video, then please consider giving it a like, or you can subscribe if you want to see more Game Pass picks in the future. Until then, happy gaming, and I will see you next time.